loss of a loved one, loss of a partner, loss of a dream. But is there no worse a loss than one without closure? Well, today, lovely viewers, we're helping you deal with your loss and keep your spirits high. And as the UK's only TV show dedicated to mental health and well-being, we, the Chrissy B Show, are here to help you move on. And as always, we have on our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, to help us do that too. Also today we have resident Dr. Rob Hicks answering your medical questions in this week's Doctor's Orders, and nutritionist Laura Southern talks to us about the best foods to help with memory loss. And Helena Chard gives us some positive feel-good news to lift our spirits. And talking about not losing sight of your goals is success strategist Stella Bida. Now back to our main area for discussion today. Ambiguous loss or loss without closure is loss of a person, idea, relationship or concept that does not have a defined understanding or end. Like, for example, the loss of someone who has died versus the loss of someone who is still alive but does not remember you, or even perhaps a partner who has just walked out on you without any explanation. Ambiguous loss can be complicated to process, as Psychology Today states, as the person may not be able to go through grief completely. Well, what do you guys out there have to say? Have you ever been through this kind of loss? How are you coping? Or do you need any advice? Get in touch with us via email on info@chrissybshow.tv. But let's first take a look on Twitter about what people are saying about loss. Positive Mind says, when you lose something, don't think of it as a loss. Accept it as the gift that gets you on the path you were meant to travel on. Wisdom is truly being wise, saying, turn every loss into a lesson. Trading Composure says, it's the worry that gets you, not the actual loss. Change your perspective. Gigi is admitting a hard truth. I've dealt with enough loss this year to last me a lifetime. I just want to see brighter days. Well, hopefully this show is actually going to help you do that. And Marcos says, not everyone you lose is a loss. So very interesting thoughts on loss there. Now let's speak to our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So a topic that we've covered loss before, but not loss without closure. We've not gone into it in detail. Can you tell us the difference?
Well, a lot of loss can be loss without closure, because even grief can last for a very long time. So you may not always get that opportunity to, I wouldn't say move on completely, because I actually don't like that terminology. A lot of getting over loss is to do with being able to live your life, but maybe live your life with the changes that have occurred. So not to keep replaying old things again and again. And the problem is, when you have a loss which is a little bit more intangible, so if someone's walked out, or if someone's ill with Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that, that person or that memory is still there. You may not actually know why they can't remember you or why they've walked out, or you're always asking questions, and that's harder to overcome. There's also, you can get lost without closure when you have, and sadly we have a lot more today, acts of terrorism, and there that shock and that disbelief can actually happen first, and then there's a need to almost assign meaning to what happened, and sadly a lot of these sorts of acts can be meaningless. And a lot of the time it's about being able to celebrate the life of the person, or celebrate the good times with the person, and that isn't always easy to do, because you've always got questions to ask.
So would you say then that sometimes, I won't say obviously loss is never easy.
It's not.
But can it be more dealt with, I suppose, if you kind of were expecting it, or...
Yes, if there's a finality to it, then it's almost a little bit easier to accept and move on. Because psychologically, we sometimes even fear loss itself, and loss may not have happened, but we don't want to take action because we fear what might happen if we do lose. And there's a phenomenon called the sunk cost bias, and what that is say you've spent 5-6 years in a relationship and it's not working, because you've spent so much time in that relationship, you don't actually want to move on, you don't want to throw it all in, because you're sitting there saying, but I've already invested so much into this, I'm afraid of what might happen next. So psychologically, we're actually even afraid of loss itself, even without it happening, and that's a real shame. You also get loss sometimes without closure when things change, such as losing youth, losing looks, sometimes disability that comes later on, loss of your own memory, the loss of the self as well. If you have an identity and maybe you lose your job, that can cause a lot of problems too. Even moving away can cause that feeling of missing someone or something. And it's hard to sort of conceptualize, and the same sort of feelings as grief will come. Even a loss of an expected promotion or prize or gift that doesn't happen can feel bad to us. And so sometimes what we have to do is just reassess reality and be able to take steps forward from the reality as we know it, not necessarily from what we hoped it would be. And that's the hardest part.
It is difficult. Well, just going back to something that you mentioned as well. I mean, when I was going through depression in my teenage and then early 20s, I felt like I was losing my youth. And for a while afterwards, I lost the best years of my life. But the thing is, as long as I was thinking that way, it wasn't, I wasn't really living my life to the fullest. But then as soon as I said, you know what, I can make the most of my life now. And it's like, it's almost as if I've made up for lost time. And like, I'm enjoying myself so much. I feel like a teenager. I feel like I'm that age and I'm happy.
That's wonderful. And that's actually one of the problems. Going over old wounds and reliving the past is not necessarily going to change anything. What it can help us do is it helps us reflect and learn from it so we don't make the same mistakes again. But just going over and over and over it doesn't make much of a difference. And unfortunately, sometimes we have a tendency to overthink and overanalyze, and that can keep us locked in that place. I mean, something that I tend to say to people who want to move on with their lives is, if our memories are greater than our dreams, that's when we're actually getting stuck. And it's really important to start thinking forwards rather than always
really
looking
powerful,
backwards.
Audrey. That is very,
sort of resonates.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you so much, my darling. And we'll see you again next week for another topic. Yes. Well, everybody, so now, as we do every week, we have on the lovely Helena Chard to share some positive and happy news with you. Welcome to the show, Helena.
Thank you, Chrissy. Always a pleasure.
So you can be coming with some great news for us today, as usual.
And different news.
And we're extra happy as well because we do have a cake in the studio. It looks absolutely beautiful, and this week's cake actually comes courtesy of Veronica's online raw and vegan cake. So this is a guilt-free cake because it's actually healthy and good for us. So
you can see that it's made with love. It's
I know, it's
attention to
beautiful,
detail.
isn't it? Thank you so much, and we can't wait to try it after we finish the news, though. So Helena, what's in it?
So, interesting storyline in Coronation Street. So Eva Price secret surrogate deal, which I found quite interesting, and she has been sort of left racked with guilt, and it started making me think about surrogacy, especially in places like India, things like that. So I was doing a little bit of research about it. So it's generally believed that the transaction is for money, commercial, but the BBC had spoken to quite a few ladies who'd mentioned that the emotional bonds that they develop with the babies is quite strong, and the pain that they feel when they have to let them go. So it's quite an interesting thought process. But not just that, just for the children, for the babies as well, because there's a bond there, isn't there? So it's quite an interesting one, without going into it too much. But also, the surrogacy industry in India, there's been lots of people sort of trying to ban it because it's seen as a sort of a rich person's will go over to have a baby, and normally it's the poor that are having the children, and it may well be passed in Parliament to stop it. So at the moment everyone's trying to have all these babies. I mean, there's pros and cons for it in a sense. It seems quite good because it stops underhand things happening, but will it? I don't know. But anyway, it's a tricky one. Also, about war. Okay, so war, as we know, affects lots of people, and I've been speaking to actually friends about different things. So in 1974, a husband and wife took a trip out to Cyprus for a short break to see family. They ran a fish and chip shop here in the UK, and it was, looking forward to it. And it was just at that time that the Turkish invasion started, and the husband was never seen again. So, it's a very sad story, but it sort of impacted on the whole family. His wife never gave up hope. She didn't even take a widow's pension because she thought that he would come back. His children, especially one son, fell out with the father just before he left, and then obviously it felt terrible. The grandchildren had been waiting, forever. So everyone was affected, and recently it was discovered that in fact he was shot along with lots of people, and although tragic, obviously, it's finalising it, isn't it? You understand what's happened,
Yeah,
and he's
imagine,
had.
does she not remarry then?
No, it's been a long time. It's only quite recently as well that it's happened, and there's been a big military send-off in Cyprus, which was televised and everything. But but I mean, it must have happened to so many different people. And actually,
at least as well, we've been talking about closure today, so hopefully that would
closure, isn't it? And in fact, one of the grandchildren, Maria, moved to the UK shortly afterwards from the Midlands to start a family. And in fact, she has a story. I mean, she's got a huge story, but one part of the story is about her daughter, Maggie. Now, her daughter, Maggie, actually disappeared for years and years into thin air, and obviously they were so panicked about it and didn't know what to do, and were trying to use lots of different sources to find her. As it happened, she had voluntarily gone into a sect.
Oh, really?
So again, something, awful, absolutely awful for them. Anyway, the mum managed to rescue her, but it was a huge amount of work to do it. She unfortunately is suffering from poor mental health now, because for years and years she was in this sect, actually wanting to get out in the end, but she couldn't.
Wow.
And but she's got a great supportive family network around her. So that's the plus sign.
Okay,
but all these things happen, isn't it? It's just a nice little story actually about Alzheimer's, which I saw on Channel 4 show 24 Hours in A&E, and it just thought it was so sweet that I thought I'd share it. So John was admitted to hospital with a heart problem. He's older than that. He met his wife probably about 70 years ago, and they went on a date, and they were going to go to the theatre, but in fact they went to the movies, and then they had a little meal that they really enjoyed, which was How Things Change, beans on toast. They love it, and it's something that they do now, that if there's something special they'll watch that same movie and have beans on toast as a treat, which is so sweet. So cute. But his wife is in the early stages of Alzheimer's, and they've been together for 70 years, and it was just so sweet what he said. It was just one little comment. He said there are good days and bad. He said it's sad, but he can't be greedy, that they've both had a good life together, and if he had his life all over again, he'd want her as her partner. But it was just it was really lovely. But
let's end on that one, because I'm going to cry and I want some cake.
Okay. Yum, cake time.
Thank you so much, Helena. Thank you. And once again, by the way, this cake does come courtesy of Veronica's. It's raw vegan cake, and actually they're also running a competition on their social media to get 2 tickets to the upcoming Free From Festival, where there'll be a stall to anyone who follows their social media accounts. Should we get tucked in?
I think we should.
I can't wait to try this.
It looks absolutely yummy. The colours and everything, really beautiful.
Okay, so let's try. I mean, it is 2-tier, but I think I just have to try and take a little piece from here, Helena, first of all.
Okay.
Do you want to bring me your plate, my love?
Thank you.
I have to say the lights are a bit warm under here, so it has melted slightly, but that looks, let's just show the viewers there, that looks lovely.
Doesn't it?
So there you go, my lovely.
Thank you.
You can try that, and I'll try mine. Should we tuck in?
Let's.
I'm assuming these are edible flowers.
Yeah, they are.
My piece is bigger than your piece.
Oh, that's a surprise.
So remember, everybody, this is really healthy. Let's try this. Oh my goodness. That is delicious.
Really yummy.
I can taste coconut. What else?
Wow. Nuts. That's so good.
That is beautiful.
I haven't actually tried anything like this before.
Really? There you go, healthy cakes.
Oh,
there you go.
Very exciting.
All right, thank you so much.
Mouthful.
Time to go, Helena. Thank you. And we'll see you again next time. I'll let you tuck in. And after the break, guys, Dr. Rob Hicks will be answering your medical questions, including this one. I'm a newlywed young woman who can't wear her own wedding ring. Gold and silver have always really irritated my skin. Am I allergic to jewellery? And if so, why? Find out the answer after the break, while I'll tuck into more of this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, your program for all things mental health and well-being. So now with us to answer your medical questions is our very own Dr. Rob Hicks. And if you have a question for him, all you need to do is email us on doctor@chrissybshow.tv. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. You happy to be on then?
I'm delighted.
Brilliant.
Always
okay.
delighted.
So we have a few questions.
Thank you.
So are we ready for the first one, which is the one that I read before the break? I'm a newlywed young woman who can't wear her own wedding ring! ! Gold and silver have always really irritated my skin. Am I allergic to jewellery, and if so, why?
That's a really rotten position to be in, isn't it? Well, the answer to the question is that you could be allergic to jewellery or the metals, possibly to gold or to silver, although the commonest metal allergy in the world is to nickel. And often gold rings have some nickel in them. And what happens is that you get something called contact dermatitis, where you get redness and itching and flakiness of the skin, and it is very, very uncomfortable. And some people who have this condition, when they wear jeans with the studs in them, you'll find that they get little red patches where the stud is on their body, and that helps us as doctors make the diagnosis. So one of the things to do, I think, is to have a checkup with your doctor to make sure that the irritation is down to the ring, because it might be a case of although it's in the site where the ring is, it might be related to the friction or the moisture that's gathering under the ring. It might be because of lotions you're using on your fingers that are actually just being rubbed and causing irritation. It may even be that there's an infection there that keeps almost healing, but it's irritating and it comes back again. So I think have a look, and then the question is whether, if it should be an allergy to any sort of metal, then you're best placed to avoid it or put up with the symptoms and treat the symptoms, if you don't want to go without the jewellery. But have a checkup in the first instance to make sure that it is contact dermatitis, which is what it sounds like, and not something else which won't cause you any problems related to jewellery.
Brilliant, Rob. Next question. My mother is getting chemotherapy for a pancreatic tumour, and recently the doctor started talking about using radiation therapy too. I thought these were the same thing. What's the difference, and when are they each used?
Okay, so they are different forms of treatment with a common goal of trying to treat a cancer or stop it from growing anymore. So the difference is chemotherapy is essentially a drug. It's given by an intravenous injection or infusion, or can be taken orally as tablets, as capsules. And what it does is it aims to stop the growth or slow the growth of cancer cells, or indeed kill those cancer cells. It's often used before surgery to make a tumour smaller, so that it's easier to remove through surgery. It's often used after surgery to try and prevent cancer coming back, or it's often used where surgery isn't possible. And so chemotherapy, because it's in the blood, it can treat cancers all around the body, because the treatment is carried in the blood to different parts of the body. The downside of that is that, of course, it may damage healthy cells as well, and that's why you get some side effects. The common ones associated with chemotherapy: nausea, vomiting, tiredness, and hair loss. So that's chemotherapy. Radiotherapy uses high-intensity beams of radiation, more targeted at a tumour, to try and shrink it and kill the cancer cells, and it does that by damaging the DNA. It's less likely to cause what we call generalized side effects, because it's more targeted, but it can cause skin rashes, it can cause fatigue, and it can cause nausea. But often these treatments are combined, because certain tumours, certain cancers respond better to a combination of these treatments rather than just one. So that's why it's been recommended.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Next question. I know I snore pretty loud, but is it the same as sleep apnea? Should I have it treated, or is snoring perfectly healthy?
Well, the answer to that is snoring and sleep apnea are different. So snoring is the sound that's made when the air is travelling through the airways and the tissues are a bit floppy, so they're wobbling, and that's why you get the snoring sounds. Sleep apnea actually means stopping breathing. Often for a short period of time, a few seconds, sometimes longer. And when that happens, the oxygen levels in the blood go down. The brain doesn't like that, so it kicks into action and it triggers breathing. So sleep apnea happens, you stop breathing because the tissue is not just floppy, but actually it's floppy enough to obstruct, to block off the airflow, whereas with snoring, it's not blocking it off, it's just waggling, it's just wobbling in the airflow. From a medical point of view, there's no medical problems associated with snoring, apart from the fact that you may well disrupt and upset a bed partner. With apnea, with sleep apnea, there are medical risks. They increase the risk of tiredness, poor concentration and accidents the day after because you don't get a full refreshing night's sleep. They also increase the risk of high blood pressure and the risk of strokes, heart attacks and a condition called atrial fibrillation, where essentially the chambers of the heart don't pump properly. They fibrillate, they wobble, they're sort of fluttery. So if your bed partner notices that you maybe have sleep apnea, so you stop breathing and then you have a bit of sort of a choke to start breathing again, that needs looking into by your doctor. Obviously, ways to avoid snoring in the first place: keep a healthy weight, avoid alcohol because alcohol relaxes the muscles. Make sure you try and sleep on your side, and the way of achieving that is to, if you wear pajamas, to sew a tennis ball into the pajamas, into a pocket in the back of the pajamas, so that if you do go onto your back, it's uncomfortable and you'll automatically roll over again. Try and keep the nose passages clear, so if you've got allergies, for example, get those treated. And the other thing is there are plenty of products that are available from the pharmacist, like nasal strips, to try and actually open the nasal passages to make airflow easier, so that you're breathing through your nose better and less through your mouth, because it's when you're breathing through the mouth mostly that you get the snoring.
Okay, and one final question for today, Rob. A few days ago, I woke up from a nap with a deep ache behind the back of my left knee that travelled down my calf. The ache was more pronounced when I stood up and walked around, but by the next day the pain was gone. Although I no longer have any pain, the veins in my left leg spasm and I feel random spurts of soreness and pain in my calf and thigh every once in a while, along with rapid pulsations of different veins. Could this be a blood clot?
It's unlikely to be a blood clot, but you've got some interesting symptoms there, and I would advise you to have a checkup with your doctor promptly. Get this looked at. It sounds more like muscle spasm. To me, it sounds like the reaction of being either sitting or lying in an awkward position, where maybe you've strained some of the tissues in your leg. It may be related to the fact that you've just taken up a new activity, or that you're doing more exercise or a new exercise than what you've been doing. The likelihood of a blood clot, deep vein thrombosis, a DVT, is greater if you're pregnant or you're a smoker, if you're overweight, if you're inactive, or you've got certain medical conditions. And the symptoms classically of a deep vein thrombosis, which is usually felt in the calf below the knee, tenderness, aching, redness. You may get swelling of that area. The area affected may look red. It may actually feel warm to the touch. Any of those symptoms need to be seen promptly in case it is a DVT. But I would urge you to get checked to be on the sure side. But my gut feeling is it isn't a blood clot. It's something which is far less serious.
Yeah, brilliant, Rob. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
See you again
Always
next week.
Yeah.
And don't forget, guys, if you have a question for Rob, all you need to do is email us on doctor@chrissybshow.tv. Well, don't go away, because after the break, we talk to our lovely nutritionist, Laura Southern, on the best foods that help with memory loss. And she'll also be answering your nutritional questions, including this one. Is it bad to eat after 8 p.m? I'm trying to lose weight, and I've read online that eating after 8 makes you fat. See what she has to say after this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. So now we have with us our lovely nutritionist, Laura Southern, who's going to talk to us about foods that can help combat memory loss. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi, nice to see you.
Love to see you too. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
A few weeks.
Yes. It's lovely to have you back, because you always give great advice.
Thank you.
And lovely recipes as well.
I try.
But first of all, tell us, what's the link between memory loss and food, and are there foods that actually help?
Yeah, so actually, there is quite a lot that you can do with diet to prevent memory loss, to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. And it's been studied and researched quite a lot. So there's a famous diet called the MIND diet, which mixes Mediterranean diet and a low hypertension diet, so getting people having lower blood pressure. We call it the MIND diet. And Researchers looked at about 900, nearly 1,000 people over a course of 9 years. They range from about 60 to, I think 98 was the oldest subject.
Okay.
And they looked at their diet and did lots of tests on them throughout the 9 years. And the people that stuck most closely to this MIND diet, which I'll tell you about it in a second, showed by the end of those 9 years that they had cognition 7.5 years younger than the people who'd done it least.
Okay.
So there's some really nice elements, and it's quite an easy one to do.
Yeah.
So there's 10 things that you should be including more of. And so those 10 things are: every single day you need to be eating some green leaves. So that could be things like kale or spinach or rocket, broccoli, really kind of leafy greens daily. Another kind of vegetable daily. Also, you're wanting to eat raw, unsalted nuts every single day.
Okay.
Olive oil.
Yes.
Whole grains in the form of things like whole wheat, quinoa, oats, brown rice. So all of those daily. Then regularly having oily fish.
Yeah.
Regularly having beans and pulses. That's a huge one. So things like chickpeas and lentils, all the legumes. They're brilliant. Red wine you're allowed in moderation, but daily, you know, can be okay. But small glass and no other alcohol. Berries and that might be our 9 now. The poultry.
Yes, okay.
Poultry, thank you. My counting's off.
I was going like this. Under here, no one can see me.
Yeah, so poultry, small amounts of poultry meat, maybe once a week would also work. And then 5 things that you should really try and limit or avoid. Red meat should be limited.
Really?
Yes.
Oh no, okay.
A little bit, you know, and actually there's quite a lot of nutrients in red meat, but small amounts. So, you know, once a week maximum. Limiting butter and margarine. So actually we have quite a lot of health benefits with butter, but for this particular diet, butter's on the low down. Cheese as well, again, some health benefits, but for this particular diet, limiting cheese. And then the usual suspects, which is the fried food and kind of sweets and pastries. So limiting or avoiding all of those. And that has been shown to be a really effective diet to help prevent dementia.
Brilliant. Okay, it's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you know, lots of things we can do. And the Mediterranean diet is, you know, the most kind of studied and the most best effects really for helping. And that's what we're doing today. We're making a really nice, lovely, vibrant Mediterranean salad, which is completely easy, completely summery, and it's a case of just chopping and bunging in a bowl, which is my favourite kind of cooking. And again, hopefully there'll be lots of things in here that can help with, you know, dementia prevention.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
So it's a watermelon, watermelon and feta salad, which is kind of a bit Greek, a bit Cypriot, a bit Israeli, Middle Eastern kind of flavours, which is really nice.
My kind of thing.
Yeah, it's delicious. So you're basically just taking chunks of watermelon and just, really it's a case of just chucking things into a bowl. So I'm just going to chop up roughly some watermelon.
And what are health benefits of watermelon?
Actually, when it comes to watermelon, when it comes to people who are elderly, one of the things that can happen is that they become quite dehydrated. And watermelon is one of those things that it's just full of hydration and really, really lovely to put in that's going to add to your hydration level throughout the day without having to think too much about drinking.
It's quite filling as well, I find.
It is filling. I mean, it's high on the sugars, which, you know, Alzheimer's has been called type 3 diabetes because there's quite a lot of links to poor blood sugar management. And so if you are worried about your blood sugar management, then too much watermelon is not going to be a good fruit for you. However, you know, once in a while in a salad full of other ingredients, it's absolutely fine. Okay. So I'm just going to chuck all of this in, and I'm just doing it really roughly. There's kind of no, you know.
Yeah. I heard you can eat the skin. Is that true?
Do you know, I have no idea.
So someone was saying, I don't know, like...
I wouldn't like to. It doesn't taste of anything.
If you guys know about this, if you know whether you can eat this. But apparently, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can eat the skin of quite a lot of fruits that you wouldn't think.
Yeah, but never heard of watermelon.
Yeah, I mean,
research for you then. You can let us know next time.
Don't you? And it tastes a bit. It tastes a bit like of nothing really. But yeah, I will look out. Onion just gives it a bit of kind of sharpness and bitterness, and again, it's adding to that green leaves thing, which is really, really useful. You can use spring onion. Also, traditionally, red onions are used quite a lot, just really finely cut. And this is just...
I would never have thought to put onion and watermelon together. That's such a...
When you kind of think about the ingredients on a written down as an ingredient list, it sounds really odd, and you just think, no, that doesn't sound nice. But when it's all together, it somehow really, really works. Okay. And you do want to quite finely chop the spring onions because...
all these massive chunks of onion.
You don't want a massive kind of bitter taste, oniony taste in your mouth.
Although we did have a lovely salad made by Hannah, one of our other nutritionists, and she did broccoli with raisins and mayonnaise, red onion. It was lovely, mixed together. Nice. It was so good. I made it last night, actually.
Did you?
I can eat loads of it. That's the thing. I can't stop. It's really weird.
I think
it's just broccoli.
Yeah, it's very good for you though.
Yeah.
You're going to be having memory all the way up to your, your hundreds.
Yeah, I love my broccoli.
When it comes to kind of old age health and dementia prevention, there's these areas called the blue zones. Have you heard of that?
No.
There's 5 countries that have been studied for having the most centenarians, I can't even say the word, who are living the kind of most healthy life, really kind of healthy old age and not getting all these chronic degenerative diseases that we get in the old age. Mm-hmm. 2 of which are Mediterranean countries. So one of them is in Greece and one of them is in Sardinia. Mm-hmm. They're places, not countries. And a lot of it is, again, to do with this kind of diet that they're eating. Okay. There are other factors as well. So one of the major ones is just not being stressed and eating with your family in a relaxed manner, in the sunshine, having time. But food is a big part, and it's, again, eating lots and lots of vegetables, lots and lots of olive oil, lots and lots of beans and pulses, local cheeses, local fruits, and they are the people that are living the longest.
The longest one.
And
good to know.
Unfortunately, us in the city haven't got much hope. So mint leaves just are great for lots of things. They are giving us that green leafy vegetable. They're full of folate, which is really, really key, and they're full of antioxidants as well, which is really important for brain health. Plus, they just taste yummy. Yes, and I often think, we think so much when we make a salad about salad leaves like lettuce and spinach and things, but actually using fresh herbs and to make the base of the salad is so lovely. So I kind of do a bit of chopping, and also you can just chuck them in whole as well. Okay. I think sometimes it's just easier to eat things. It smells amazing. It smells wonderful, doesn't it? It's the smell of summer. And again, with this, it's a bit bish bash bosh. There's no real right or wrong with quantities, because it's just a case of what you like. So if you like more mint, put more mint in, and you can always taste it at the end. So I'm just giving it a bit of a stir. Feta's just going in as is, really. It can go in nice big chunks. Already it's looking and smelling so summery.
I've got the lime here, I nicked it, sorry.
Brilliant, so that's okay. And the last ingredient before we add the dressing is black olives.
The olives.
Black olives, exactly.
Yes.
Again, olives are going to be absolutely rich in olive oil. So again, they're a really nice thing, and they're filling. And the foods like olives and feta are foods that help prevent sugar cravings as well. So if you're trying to manage your blood sugar control to prevent Alzheimer's, then they're really great foods to be including. And they're all easy foods. You have them in the fridge in a jar. You can just chuck them in anything, and they're easy. Just chopping these. You could use green olives. Black olives just seem to look quite attractive.
Jubbly.
Okay. Just get used to that stir. Okay. And then the dressing is just really, really simple. It's just juice of a lime and olive oil. You can use lemon if you haven't got limes. Limes give it just that extra bit of kind of sharpness and zest.
Yeah, lime is it's a bit more like a more exotic taste. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you're totally right. I'm just going to start with one because, half, I mean.
Yeah, okay.
And then a really good glug of olive oil. So olive oil is, the magic ingredient for all this Mediterranean diet. You can't really go wrong with too much olive oil in anything. And even though you think olive oil and watermelon is a bit weird, it really works in the salad. So.
Can't wait to. I'm not going to try this right now because I do have a couple of questions to ask you very quickly, Laura, but it looks amazing. Oh, a bit of black pepper.
A little bit of black pepper, just a tiny bit, just to kind of bring out, kind of counterbalance the saltiness of the feta.
Look at that, guys. Doesn't that look lovely? It's I would never think to put these ingredients together.
No, I think it can do with a bit more mint, just looking at it.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going to
have a look at this, guys. And I'm sure it's going to taste amazing, and I'm going to try it during the break because I'm going to ask you some questions now, so you can carry on cutting the mint.
I will. I just want a bit more in.
Okay, Laura, so the first question, which was the one we had before the break, is it bad to eat after 8 p.m? I'm trying to lose weight, and I've read online that eating after 8 makes you fat.
Okay, well, it doesn't make you fat. I mean, lots of factors go into making people fat, but eating after 8 p.m. can be not eating after 8 p.m. can be a very good way of minimising the amount that you're eating. So if you're a kind of person that, end of the day, you have your evening meal, you sit on the couch, watch telly, out kind of bag of crisps, the bowl of popcorn, like a lot of us do, yes, straight away, that is going to be adding to your, energy that you don't need. And if you think about what your evening routine is, if it is going from dinner table to couch to bed, and you're eating throughout that whole time, then yes, it is definitely going to be a time that you can put on weight. But it's not one size fits all. It doesn't always work like that for everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Next question. What's the one food you would tell your clients to stop eating? I'm doing a detox and was wondering if there are any so-called healthy foods that I should avoid.
Yeah, well, at the moment, there's a lot of kind of pre-packaged foods that kind of scream diet foods, health foods, and generally they're full of either sugar or artificial sugars and ingredients that have no place in a body. And yes, I would avoid all of those kinds of foods. But generally, no food is bad if it is whole food, if it's healthy food, if it's vibrant food. When it comes from a packet that looks like it's got lots of claims and lots of labels on it and lots of strange ingredients, that's the kind of food to avoid. If you can't recognise the ingredients, or you think, what does that look like, or where would I even buy that from?
Stay away from
Stay away. Exactly.
Okay. And one last question for today.
Yeah.
I've been diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend of mine suggested eating multiple times a day to level my blood sugar. Should I snack during the day?
No. That's terrible, terrible advice. When you are a type 2 diabetic, you need to be eating a lot less and having big gaps between your meals. So the second you start trying to eat more food is very detrimental to your blood sugars. So it's all about sticking to 3 meals a day, having gaps, even trying to do some fasts. So do not start snacking. It will just raise your insulin levels, which will make your diabetes worse.
Oh, good thing we asked.
Yeah, exactly. That's a definitive.
Thank you so much, Laura.
You're really welcome.
And we'll see you again next time.
Definitely.
And don't go away, because after the break, we talked to success strategist Stella Bida on how she overcame personal struggles and achieved her goals in becoming a successful entrepreneur. But first, is this true or false? 62% of people that set New Year's goals never actually achieve them. What do you guys think? Find out after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where today we've been talking all about loss. Now, before the break, I asked you if this was true or false. 62% of people that set New Year goals never actually achieve them. The answer actually is false. It's more. According to an article written by Inc., a staggering 92% of people never achieve their New Year's resolutions. So why do we let go of goals we wish to achieve? And is there any way we can stop this? Well, we now have on a lovely lady called Stella Bida, who's going to be telling us about her story and how she actually managed to keep to her goals. Welcome to the show, Stella.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here today, Chrissy.
It's lovely to have you on. You've got a lovely smiley face, and I love that.
Oh, thanks, thanks.
Can you just tell us briefly what you do?
So today, with people, I help them to define their desires, fulfill them, and make them realize that they can really do so much more than they think they can.
Brilliant, because this is what actually happened to you, isn't it? Because there was a time when you went through a really tough time.
Yes, this is really what happened to me. And until I went through that tough time, it was until then that I realized all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what actually happened to you? How did it all start off, and then how did it develop?
So I have been working in the corporate environment for more than 10 years now. And at a certain point in time, I had to go through a difficult moment, actually. So for most of the time working there, I was a superwoman. I could do it all. I would just any situation which would be in front of me, I would succeed. That was what I did. I really took all the projects I was working on and I took them to success without really listening to me. So one day I had one of these projects where I was in a kind of toxic environment, but still back then it was okay because I was a superwoman, and until then I had always brought my projects to success.
When you say toxic environment, what do you mean?
What I mean by toxic environment is an environment in which my own feelings, own feelings about the projects, or my own way of analyzing it were not taken into account.
Okay, so you've kind of felt like disregarded, really, your opinion.
Yes, really disregarded. And on the other hand, I had very high challenging goals to achieve. So
you set those goals for yourself, did you?
So I was defined the goals, but I also set the goals for myself. And as I did it, it was always higher than what people would expect from me, because I always wanted to do much better.
Yeah,
So yeah, despite the resources which were not there, the toxic environment which was not keen and okay for the girls, it was okay. I was superwoman, so I could do it. Yeah. So it's not until one day I realized that my body told me, hey, I won't be your friend anymore. I'm not going to handle the superwoman thing until you take action. So basically, I had a tough time on myself, and my body started to tell me that things were not going on right. And
were you getting like very, very tired and things like that? What was actually
I was
happening?
getting tired, but still getting tired, it's fine. You can take like pills, and if you have a headache, you can take something to get rid of the pain. But when I woke up one day and that I had a panic moment, sweating, etc., it's really hard to describe, but basically I had a high blood pressure.
Wow.
That's when I said, uh-oh. And going to the emergency, etc. That's where I really decided to stop.
Did you ever think that would happen?
No, not at all. I was young. I mean, it would never have happened to me. And until then, I have always handled bad situations. Yeah. Everything was going right, so I would have never thought about that. Actually, I was even thinking, is it really happening to me? I was I was not feeling right about that because I was a bit like shy about the situation which was going on. Yeah, it was hard.
And it was nothing to be ashamed of, because obviously you were pushing yourself too much, and then also in that environment that you were in, which wasn't healthy for you as well. It just got overwhelming.
Indeed.
How did you actually move past all that and be the success that you are today?
Yes, so I'm very happy to say that even though I was there, and that's the case for anybody, no matter where you are today, you can really rise and get out of that situation, but you need to acknowledge the fact that you need help.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
That's what I had to do. I actually had no choice at that moment when my body told me, I'm not going to follow you on that one. So I really took help. I asked for help, and that's when I started to transform and to rise and to shine. Yeah.
So you left that environment, didn't you? And you moved on to something
really
else.
left. It was like from a day to another. It was a stop. It was quite challenging because I had impact on my finances. So I really had to not overthink and just say it's the best solution. It's the best decision to take. And taking decisions is really a step forward to that transformation.
Do you think sometimes that it's that fear of like you said, it's the financial situation. It is quite a scary thing to kind of just make that move, isn't it? But then that's the only way that you're going to ever move forward. And you have to take those risks, don't you?
Yes, it's the only way to move forward. And actually, what I can say, I'm happy it happened because I realized that there is always a solution. Yeah. No matter how bad it is, I was actually surprised by all the solutions which were in front of me. I didn't know they existed. And until then, that's really when I started to see that any kind of situation, you can get rid of the situation and find solutions. Choose solutions.
Amazing. Yes. And how did you build things up then to what you're doing today?
Yes.
Because you had to take it step by step, obviously.
Yes, it was a step by step, but a very disciplined step by step. What I mean by that is that before, when I had projects, when they were mine, I could take one step, then stop, and then another one. It doesn't care. But when it was related to others people's projects, I was bringing them to success. So it was a bit strange. When it was my own projects, I didn't take them seriously. But during the whole transformation part, I really had to take all the steps with consistency. And that's what really made my success of today. Brilliant. Being consistent in the different steps and surrounding myself with the right people.
Amazing. And can you tell us a bit more about what you actually do, like where you go to do these things? Tell us a bit about your work.
So the first part of my work started with working on myself, knowing who I am, what is that I want, what are my desires. And it seems obvious like that, but it was a kind of hard moment because I realized that I have never been trained to ask myself these questions. So
very deep.
Yes, it was kind of hard. And I remember that during this transformation phase of knowing more about myself, sometimes I remember going back home and with my husband, he was asking me, how did it go? I felt ashamed to answer because what could I say? I don't even know who I am. So that's when I discovered who I am, what is that I want, what is that I desire.
Which is so important, isn't it? It's the foundation of your success.
It's so important.
Yeah.
It's the first step to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And once I found that, wow.
Yeah. And now you speak in different countries as well, don't you?
Yes, I speak in different countries, Africa, US, Europe. I'm also willing to discover Asia, discover the world. And actually I found out with the places I've been to that the challenges are the same for some people. Discovering what is that they want, how to get there once they know. And we have the same challenges, and we can have the same success as well.
Brilliant. Now, I did mention before about how many people don't actually achieve their New Year goals. Do you think they're maybe doing what you used to do and setting really unachievable goals or goals that were too high, would you say?
Yes. You need to set realistic goals and follow up on the execution. I talked about the steps, taking the steps with consistency. This is really key because setting goals is not enough. Having the will in your head is not enough. You really need to draw it, write it down, follow it up step by step, day by day. And you will be amazed with the progress that you do within 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. It's a wow. It's really worth it.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Stella, do you listen to your body today? Do you take breaks?
I do. I really talk to myself. I put myself in the mirror. I admire myself. I show myself love. That's not something I used to do. I would go in front of the mirror and say, oh, what is this? Now I really take the time to love myself.
Amazing.
And by caring like that, I realize that I have more energy to take care of other people.
That's so important, isn't it?
It's really important.
And Stella, one final thing, if we have anyone watching now that's maybe been through a really tough time like you had as well, and they're kind of maybe, it feels like they've lost everything, they have to start again, but they're feeling really like low about it and they don't feel like they have the strength to actually start all over again, what would you say to them?
I would tell them that they have a beautiful diamond inside that just needs to be found. It needs to shine, and they're the ones who can press the button shine, actually. It's just up to them. They don't need any permission from anybody. They can just do it. It's just about the next steps. The next step. Not even the next steps, but the next step. The next step is crucial.
Brilliant. Stella, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chrissy.
Lovely to speak to.
Thank you.
And all the best. Please do keep in touch and let us know how it's all going.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone, we have actually reached the end of today's program, but if you have an inspiring story like Stella to tell, please do get in touch with us. You can do so on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And don't forget, if you'd like to know more about my mental health journey and how I beat my problems, you can visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Till next time, bye for now.